The 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup is over, and we can all agree that this was by far the most entertaining edition of them all. The stadiums were packed, the TV coverage was awesome, and more than ever before, the whole world was interested in the women's game. This was also the first time the Women's World Cup was being hosted by two nations, but stick around until the end because there are a lot of other interesting facts you didn't know about the event. Number 10. Starting with the number of participating teams. For a long time, the biggest competition in women's soccer played second fiddle to the men's tournament in many areas, one of which was the number of participating teams. However, thanks to the improvement in the quality of women's soccer around the world, the number of participating teams in the Australia-New Zealand Women's World Cup rose to 32, which is the same as the number of participating teams in the last Men's World Cup. And while it's true that the men will shoot up the number to 48 teams in the next Men's World Cup, this was still a big step up for the women from the previous 24 teams allowed to participate in the past. Number 9. The second interesting fact about the Women's World Cup you need to know is that the two finalists from the last edition in 2019 were drawn in the same group in the 2023 edition. I'm talking about the former champions USA and the Netherlands, who were pitted against each other more than once in Group E. Of course, fans will remember the USA beating Holland 2-0 in an entertaining final the last time out. And speaking of group stage pairings in the Women's World Cup, the 32 participating teams of 2023 were drawn into 8 groups of 4 teams each. Number 8. Which brings us to the third interesting fact about the FIFA Women's World Cup. The 2023 edition featured 8 debuting teams. Yeah, Haiti, Panama, Portugal, Philippines, Morocco, Vietnam, Ireland and Zambia all played in the Women's World Cup for the first time in their histories, and while none of them emerged as the winner, they'll surely get the chance to try again in the next edition. Anyway, as we wait for that time to come, did you notice that women footballers are becoming more popular by the day? Sure, players like Brazil's Marta and USA's Rapinoe are popular in their own right, but trust me when I say that there are a lot more celebrity women players today. Number 7. That being said, our fourth interesting fact about the FIFA Women's World Cup is that the 2023 edition featured the most popular women footballers ever, at least going by their social media followers anyway. You can easily tell that women's football is going places simply by taking a peek at how many followers they now have on Instagram. Alicia Lehrmann of Switzerland has well over 10 million followers on the gram, and so does Alex Morgan of the USA. In fact, the most followed player on 7 of the participating women's teams had more than 1 million followers on Instagram. Never before has such popularity among women players been evident, and judging by how successful the 2023 Women's World Cup was, you can bet that the women will only grow in fame, and hopefully, fortune. Ah yes, what's the point of being a star player if you don't have the money to show for it? This is a question FIFA must have asked themselves, and going by the clamour for equality in the women's game, it came as no surprise that something had to be done about the women's paycheck. Number 6. This ushers into the fifth interesting fact about the Women's World Cup. Did you know that the 2007 edition in China was the first Women's World Cup to feature any prize money from FIFA? Yeah, the participating teams were playing for free before then, until FIFA put down a total of 5.8 million for the 2007 tournament. Thankfully, those days are gone, and the football governing body has since introduced preparation money and other benefit programs to support the women's national teams as they prepare for tournaments. Number 5. Still on the issue of money, did you know that the 2023 edition featured the highest amount of money distributed by FIFA among the participating teams? And that figure sits at a whopping $110 million. Well, it's not so jaw-dropping when compared to what the men's teams are getting, but once again, it was a step in the right direction for the women's game. Spain were the lucky winners, and they took home the biggest chunk of the cake, with their prize money tagged at $10.5 million. $42.2 million was also allocated to teams for the sake of preparation, accommodation, and other expenses incurred while getting ready for the tournament. Part of the money was also dedicated to the club benefits program, which served as compensation to the women's football clubs who had to release their players to their respective national teams. The $110 million distributed by FIFA for the 2023 edition meant a 200% increase from the 2019 edition. It also meant that for the first time, each participating player would receive as much as $30,000 for their hard work. Number 4. Moving on to our seventh interesting fact about the Women's World Cup, and it has to do with the unpredictability of the spectator attendance in New Zealand. In fact, did you know that FIFA was so worried about the lack of popularity of football in the country that they actually gave out 20,000 free tickets? These worries weren't misplaced though, as the average attendance for the last 4 FIFA Women's World Cups were not encouraging. In fact, attendance figures were decreasing with each passing tournament. However, there was a glimmer of hope for the women's game, as attendees at club level began increasing slowly. The 2022 Women's Euro Championship also offered some encouragement, as the final between England and Germany broke all previous attendance records with 87,192 fans present at the stadium. Unfortunately, the 2023 Women's World Cup couldn't match the same numbers though, and that was partly due to having New Zealand as the co-host. Apparently, FIFA didn't expect the locals to be so uninterested in women's football. One country that is very interested in football though is none other than Brazil. In fact, it'll be unimaginable to talk about any World Cup tournament, male or female, and not talk about Brazil. Or can you? Well, actually, you can, as the Brazil women's team have not been able to recreate the successes of their male counterparts. Number 3. You'll have to brace yourself for this one. I mean, Brazil's women's national team has never won the World Cup. Hard to believe, but true. While the likes of Ronaldo de Lima, Romario, and Ronaldinho have all won World Cups for the South American giants, their female counterparts have failed to do the same. In fact, Brazilian women have been so unimpressive that they've only been to a Women's World Cup final once. This was in 2007, where they finished as runners-up, and this is far from what the average football fan would expect from the greatest footballing nation in the world. The 2023 World Cup wasn't any different, as they failed once again to recreate the Brazilian magic. Number 2. Speaking of magic, our next fact about the FIFA Women's World Cup involves two women's teams who have had to produce some nail-biting finishes to clinch the gold. Yeah, both teams have had to push it to the limit to win, and when I say limit, I mean the dreaded penalty shootout. In the history of the Women's World Cup, only on 2 occasions have the winners been decided by penalties. The first was in 1999 when the US women's team blazed through the Chinese by firing home all 5 of their kicks. The US found themselves needing to produce the same shootout magic of '99 when they faced the Japanese in the 2011 final. Unfortunately, lightning doesn't strike twice at the same place, and it was the Asians who walked away with the gold after outscoring their opponents 3-1. So we're almost at the end of the video, but we can't leave without filling you in on our 10th and final fact about the Women's World Cup. Number 1. Now some people call them the Magnificent Seven, but whatever the case, did you know that only 7 teams have played in all editions of the Women's World Cup? These teams didn't miss out on any of the tournaments, and they are scattered across North America, Europe, Asia, South America, and Africa. They are none other than Sweden, Germany, Norway, Brazil, Japan, Nigeria, and the USA. Speaking of the USA, did you know that they are the only hosts to ever win the Women's World Cup? Call it the host's curse if you wish, but every other host has failed to lift the trophy, including Australia and New Zealand at the just concluded tournament. Australia did manage to get to the 2023 semis, but they were blown away far too easily by England, who went on to lose their final match to the eventual winners, Spain. So which of these facts surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed watching this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.